I'd like to begin where Rabbi Appleby left off when she called attention to that little aleph, that irresistible little aleph at the end of the word Vayikra, the first word of the book of Vayikra. The word itself means, and God called. God called out, God called upon Moses. So what do we know of this little aleph of Vayikra? Some say it is the origin of the custom to begin with the book of Vayikra when teaching children. That little aleph is the young child, 3 years old, ready for Torah. The very first Torah taught should not be Bereshit bara Elohim in all of its grandeur, God as creator of the vast universe. That is not where we traditionally begin with children. We need something smaller. Vayikra, and God called out to Moses. We begin for our children with relationship, that intimate relationship between God and Moshe. God called out with that little aleph in a whisper, tenderly, with a quiet, still, small voice, the kind that children might draw closer to hear. And Moses, the great Moses, heard God's call only because he humbled himself. He made himself small, like that aleph. And so he made room in his life to hear God's voice, to acknowledge God's presence, even when it is hidden. It seems that one of the great secrets in life is knowing when to make ourselves large and when to make ourselves small, when to be bold and when to be humble, when to move over to make room for God, and when to grow into those empty open spaces that God, by design, created for us to fill with imagination and initiative. When should we say, as we did at the beginning of our service, Ma'anachnu, Mechayenu, what are we? What is our life? We are like nothing before the omnipotent God. And when should we change our language? In that very prayer, we shift and we say, Aval anachnu amecha. We are your people. However, but, nevertheless, we are b'nei britecha. Despite all our frailty, we are your people, called to your covenant, called to your grand and noble service. This Talmudic prayer describes us first as hevel, as nothing but a fleeting breath, insubstantial as mist, our translation says. That's who we are against the backdrop of God's presence, but the prayer does not end there. Our sages say that by attaching ourselves to the great God, we grow greater too, in purpose and in potential. When should we make ourselves small? When should we make ourselves larger? This past Monday night, I was teaching our confirmation students, and I learned more about a Facebook phenomenon called Feed the Deed. Have you heard of it? Yes. Feed the Deed. Apparently, it started in response to a dangerous drinking game on university campuses. The deadly game was called Neck Nominations. It went like this, or maybe it still goes like this, for all I know. A student posts a video of himself drinking himself stupid and doing some challenge, and then publicly nominating a friend to outdrink him. Neck Nominations, it's been reported, has led to 5 deaths. And in response to that dangerous trend, someone by the name of Josh Stern, a Chat graduate, who is now a 22-year-old, you know him? You know him well. You should get up here and tell the story. A 22-year-old medical student decided instead to video himself handing out sandwiches to the hungry. And he posted it, and then he publicly nominated a friend to follow suit, to do some challenge, some act of random kindness. So our confirmation students, being the good people they are, each one had his and her own Feed the Deed story to tell. By whom were they nominated? What did they do? How did others react to their unexpected act of kindness? And they were also quick to point out, this might not surprise you, that the trend among kids participating in schools and on campuses, by and large, it was a trend among Jewish students. And I was interested why our students noticed that, first of all, and why they thought it to be the case. And to my delight, they were not shy about using the word mitzvah. They spoke very easily about modeling of parents and synagogue and Jewish community, which has raised them and influences their outlook and their self-perception. Our 16-year-olds already see that a life of mitzvot can be creative and playful, spontaneous, and unexpected, and that this is the kind of peer pressure that they embrace. One small deed can more easily lead to another when it's the community that reinforces and rewards. In just 1 month, more than 10,000 videos and photographs from more than 30 countries have been uploaded onto Feed the Deed. Mitzvot, it seems, are alive and well in our youth. In 2014, no cynicism, no edge, a trendy medium to be sure, but a good Jewish impulse nonetheless. That small act of kindness, how it can grow larger. In his time, Rabbi Leo Baeck also spoke of the importance of the small and the random act of kindness. He wrote, piety, especially Jewish piety, respects the little person, the little matter, the little task, the little duty. Through the little, religion meets the greatness that lies behind. Rabbi Baeck lived these words, of course. He used little words to articulate big ideas. Before, during, and after the war, he taught in such a way that ordinary folk could grasp complex ideas. Hundreds would cram into the barracks of Theresienstadt to listen to his teachings on Plato and Kant, as well as the biblical prophets and Moses Mendelssohn. Rabbi Baeck performed all kinds of small deeds, and through that smallness, he made himself a giant. How many hundreds and thousands of lives did he rescue by a little piece of advice given to Rabbi Plaut, given to my own grandfather, and hundreds of others? In a little moment, he would give a little guidance and a little encouragement, a little attention, and he thereby grew larger than life, literally larger than life. He is a shining light of 20th century Jewry. And he is remembered in our stained glass window in the main sanctuary. Have you ever noticed? There is a depiction of Rabbi Leo Baeck holding an open book and standing very tall, while there is chaos swirling around him, around his feet. And the artist may be instructed by Rabbi Eisendrath, I don't know. There is also in the stained glass window, just above Rabbi Baeck's head, there is an excerpt from Psalms, Mata ragli chastecha, Adonai yis'adeni. When I feel my foot slipping, your kindness, O God, steadies me. when to be humble like the aleph of Vayikra, and when ennobled like the ayin of the Shema. Both are silent letters, but each has a role to play, a distinct role to play. And one of the secrets of life is knowing when to contract and when to expand, in word, in deed, and in character. Another shining example comes from the story of Purim, just on the horizon now, just a week away. Esther was known for her modesty. When all the other ladies of the kingdom rushed to the palace, she would have preferred the quiet at home. When all the other ladies of the kingdom dressed in heavy gowns and layers of makeup and were weighed down by glamorous jewels and perfume, Esther, so the story goes, wore a simple white dress. And in her modesty, she too grew larger than life, literally larger than life. She too became a rescuer of life, and that pivot point from humility to boldness, that moment when she emerges the hero, the dramatic turn in her own self-definition comes when Mordechai sends a messenger. And the message is received, "Do not imagine that you of all the Jews will escape with your life by being in the king's palace." On the contrary, her cousin, her elder, writes, "If you keep silent, if you make yourself small in this crisis, then relief and rescue will surely come to the people from some other place. But who knows? Perhaps you have ascended. Perhaps you have been made great. You have been brought to royal position for just this very moment." And Esther, having received that message in her hand, suddenly sees herself from outside of herself. She can watch her life on a screen, unfolding, with that little encouragement. The moment when her decision becomes easy and clear, she is determined and fearless. She says, "If I perish, I perish." And she marches in the direction of the king's chambers. The little person, the little matter, the little task, the little duty, through the little religion meets the greatness that lies behind. That greatness with a capital G. The one who lies behind and beyond. This is the wisdom of the book of Vayikra. Behind all those details of the animal sacrifices lies the instruction for how we might make ourselves an offering. How ought we, who are but flesh and blood, we who are basar vadam, how might we make our very lives a grand offering of devotion? In full awareness of our mortality and with no denial of our finitude, may we yet grow larger in deed, broader in compassion, expanded in our learning, and bolder in our service to our God. And then we too will be magnified as we say, Yitgadal v'yitkadash. Magnified and sanctified are you, O God, as we strive to walk humbly with you.